You are listening to an exclusive on PodHub Network. Your city, your podcast.
To the delight of this crowd, McClendon marches down the dugout steps with first base.
McCutcheon's throw. The runner breaks to the plate. Here's the throw. Wow. It is out. The Buccos win. That ball's hit well to left center field. Back toward the track. And that ball is gone.
You are listening to the North Shore 9 podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, make sure to watch NS9 live every Thursday on Twitch and help support by becoming a patron. Let's go Bucks!
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to wNS9 Plus. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have, as always, Jim, we got Tyler, and we have a special guest tonight. We got Alex Stumpf from DK Pittsburgh Sports. What's up, Alex?
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's been long enough. It took long enough for me to finally get the invite here. Come on.
I mean,
you
no.
got the invite long ago.
Hold on. Yeah, you got an invite one time before.
And then Trevor Cahill signs so he can make 9 terrible starts. And then it's like, well, no. Can't believe Alex prioritized a Trevor Cahill signing over us.
Yeah,
Get him.
really. What was more valuable there? An NS9 appearance or Trevor Cahill to the Pirates?
Someone's laptop died. I remember that one also.
It was probably
I don't-
that
It's
happened.
DiNardo.
I don't recall that at all. That
I
sounds quite fake.
Yeah.
It was
All right.
DiNardo.
I missed it anyways. I don't know what I was doing. I
Nope, it was
missed the Cahill
DiNardo.
signing.
Yeah, that was a very poor, this is a terrible night all around. Because you are right. Jim couldn't make it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
My Mac, that was actually the last show I did on that Mac ever. Well, actually, I didn't do the show because it failed. And then Alex left us because Trevor Cahill decided to sign and become a Pirate for a little bit of time. So, yeah, that was great. But, I mean, yeah, you're wondering why wasn't us back? I mean, you ditched us for Trevor Cahill. So, you got to pay your dues to come back on here.
I can see how that's an ego boost or an ego bruise. The other thing.
That would hurt.
I wasn't part of it, but I was hurt as well.
Jim
Trevor
took the
Cahill.
greatest offense.
Oh, for certain.
No, thanks for hopping on. I said glad you could join us because I don't think you've never been on here since I've been a part of this. So this is like the first time I've ever gotten to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on. Excited to finally tie Noah all time on guest appearances here.
I know
There
the
you
last time I saw Alex, he did not have that haircut. It was much longer.
Yeah, it was a little worse, I guess.
He was going a little Fabio on us.
What was the COVID? No one cut their hair during.
No, this was beyond COVID.
Yeah, this was. I had the COVID hair.
No, he was just.
And then I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm taking a second lap with it. Like that was the.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
got a good hairline.
truly
This is-
disappointed that it's gone.
It might be coming back. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I buzzed it last time and haven't touched it since, and it's starting to come back. It's coming in grayer. I'm getting old.
I got my
Watching
haircut
too much
today.
Pirates baseball.
I'll say
Listen,
that
Alex.
watching Pirates baseball all day, every day will do that to someone.
Yes.
Alex, I don't
We'll
know how
go
much
with
older than me you are. I got my haircut today. I'm wearing a hat for a reason. The amount of grays I was picking out of my little apron right there was embarrassing.
We're old. This
Yeah.
is the second oldest baseball podcast in Belgium or something.
It probably is.
I mean, it could also be the youngest.
Yeah. Second oldest and the youngest. Yeah.
There we go.
Or the only. Could possibly be the only.
Right. Yeah, we're just number 2 because some random podcast has baseball in their title, so they became number 1. It's a movie podcast, had a baseball movie they're talking about.
There's probably one person in Belgium who accidentally clicked on our podcast and it registered. It's like, oh, bam, number 2 podcast.
There's one podcast out there that was just ranking movies and added money or Major League back in the day, and we're still behind them.
Good stuff.
Yeah. But anyways, so welcome to the number 2 baseball podcast in Belgium. We're here to grow your brand as well. So they'll all follow you. You know, we're big time. We got connects there. So we'll help you grow up there, Alex. But
Good. Maybe I could get on the CBA leak list after this boost.
Let's get it. Yeah.
there you go. Although I can provide you with some leaks. Nothing
Hit me.
happened.
No. Well, thanks for nothing.
Yeah.
There were some talks. They went out in some hallways and took breaks, and that's about it.
What did they drive in?
A Porsche.
Yeah. Well, we know what Garrett Cole and Max Scherzer drove in, but we don't know what anybody else drove in.
That's right.
I think the owners all hitchhiked, or they took one of those like rideshare scooters.
I'm just imagining Dick Manford just being out there, scootering his way to the negotiations, trying to give the Cardinals $50 million more.
They got that Uber share, right?
Yeah. 4.8 stars right there, baby.
Yeah.
Bob Nutting actually made the Pirate Parrot carry him to the
He
negotiations.
flew in on the parrot.
See, I didn't even think of fly whenever Jim said that. I thought, like, carrying in his arm, like he's taking him away from a battlefield running.
I feel like that would be better. Just walking and carrying him. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, because, those owners, they have no money. They can't afford to pay anyone.
No, it's really a tragic story, actually. Fighting over to make sure which, guys who make the minimum, if it's $10,000 or only $5,000 raise they get right there. I mean, come on. The Guggenheims have, presumably some mouths to feed.
Yeah, they got to feed their families, Alex.
Yeah, it's very inconsiderate.
If there was only something that had like a ceiling of how much they could spend.
That just really floors me that they don't.
So we ever getting to a show?
We are, actually. So I actually do.
Oh, you put a cap to that.
I actually do have something very serious to ask Alex right now.
All right.
I read your question and answers on DK. And at one point, you mentioned that if Mason Martin would have a 300 on-base percentage, he would be good. And I could not disagree with you more. And I just want to call you out on your little affection for Mason Martin right now, because I don't like him.
Elaborate, go.
Strikes out too much.
He does.
That's literally all it takes. There is not another major league. Well, there's a couple, but not at his. No. Not at the level he's playing at. There are two off. From what we've gathered, there are two major leaguers that struck out at the rate that Mason Martin has in the minor leagues, and maybe one, Javi Baez, that have walked as few times as he has and has been successful in the major leagues. So I would like to know why you think Mason Martin could be a good Major League Baseball player.
I'm not going to at all argue about the strikeouts, because that is the whole point with it. He does need to cut down on strikeouts. Everyone will say it. He will say it. No way around it. He needs to find a way to get on base more. That said, I think he's done a pretty good job trying to, because I wasn't really high on Mason Martin during the season, but off-season Mason Martin, I'm kind of changing my tune a little bit, because he's really working on trying to make good two-strike decisions, trying to identify pitches more. They do the goggles, the beer goggles, where it just turns off.
Yeah, the Oculus.
Yes, they turn it off. He's doing real well there. And that drill that I described in that story Monday, where they have the two pitching machines, the one that's really close by there, I saw a lot of people, a lot of hitters swing out of their shoes trying to make contact with breaking stuff. He didn't whiff on anything. And I know that's just one drill, and it's a drill that not exactly what you would expect, or maybe it doesn't even translate to game situations that well. I'm seeing strides with his swing and miss. Not to the point that, he's going to have a 15% strikeout rate or whatever, but a step. He's got power. There's absolutely no denying that. He's just got to find a way to cut down on strikeouts, get on base more, because I feel like you could drop him into a major league lineup today. And if he got a full season worth of at-bats, he would have hit 20 homers, 30 doubles. Would he also have a 170 OPP? Because that's not good enough.
But you brought up two really large points there about he's got to learn to strike out less and walk more. Those are not easy things to do, and things that people just learn to do.
No, I just need to be a foot taller and learn how to shoot a basketball, and I'm in the NBA. I mean, I get that also. But I think where he's...
Will you, though?
Maybe.
I'm just messing.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, he still might be a point guard these days.
I'd be like 6'10". How many 6'10" point guards are there, Jim? I'm not Donardo.
Ben Simmons.
He's
He
playing.
can't shoot, though. So if Alex can shoot, he's already better.
There you go.
But yeah, it's two really big parts. I don't even necessarily blame the Pirates for not rostering him because he's going to play first base. And there is he could play corner outfield or anything. He is very much a first baseman or DH who strikes out a ton. But there's a lot of power there, and that might be undervalued a little bit still in today's game. So I don't know. I think he's the guy in this camp that a couple days down here, I take a look at. It's like, you're not quite the guy I remember in Altoona last year. You look like you took a step.
Have you seen, have they gotten to, intra-squad type scrimmage situations yet? Or are they still just kind of in drills and BP?
We're still drills, some live BP every once in a while. So you get to see Nick Gonzalez, who's not 100%, ready yet, have Blake Wyman throw a couple fastballs by, and you're like, okay, so how much of that is on Nick Gonzalez not, being up to speed yet? How much of that is on, oh my God, Blake Wyman just blew a couple fastballs. Do we have a StatCast reading, a TrackMan reading on what's going on here? It's very much drills, just trying to get a glimpse of how everyone's looking right now. I'm hoping I get to see a little intra-squad before I leave.
I don't know if I asked you this too, but they're basically spring training games not going to happen.
Probably not. I mean, I've asked around and I haven't heard anything that's at least, we have a game going on here. So if they are going to happen, they're probably not scheduled right now.
Gotcha.
Did you mention in your chat minor league scrimmages possibly? I don't know if I read that wrong.
No, it could happen. I mean, if it was like Instructs, they have the scrimmages. Mm-hmm. So if it's just that, I don't know why they couldn't call up Baltimore and be like, hey, Sarasota's 20 minutes away. Let's just, play a couple games together. There could be something like that, but I don't think there's anything actually planned at the moment, or at least scheduled.
The reason I asked that is just with the Rule 5 potentially coming up is other teams getting a look at some of the guys and what could happen, but it's all kind of hearsay right now.
I mean, and this year, Rule 5, especially if the season gets shortened, which it looks like it will. I mean, maybe it's not. I hope it's not, but good chance it will. Shorter season, whole lot easier to carry a Rule 5 guy. So I think this is going to be a really busy year for that. So someone like Cal Mitchell, the Mason Martins, they're at higher risk than I think they normally would be. And even then, they'd be kind of high risk of being picked anyway.
I ask you to take Mason Martin and deal with him for a full year. Have fun.
Do you want my hot take?
Go ahead.
He's replacing Matt Olson on the Athletics.
Olson's going to go to suck then.
They are. They are going to suck regardless
They're
of
going
who
to
they have
suck
played
even
first
worse
base.
with Mason Martin.
But what if he's good? What if he's good?
He won't be.
And what do the Athletics have to lose after they trade Chapman and Olson when the new CBA is done?
That's a hot take.
I mean, the thing is though,
you
can't just take someone who struck out 34% of the time in Double-A, plop them in the majors, and expect anything out of him. Like,
Counterpoint: Billy Beane is an insane person and has been for 2+ decades.
who values
very fair
getting
take.
on base, which Mason Martin showed last year he couldn't do.
Also a good take. Rebuttal.
Insane person, 2+ decades.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like
Very good rebuttal.
you mentioned it before, like Mason Martin's kind of pigeonholed in one position. I think because of that, it keeps him from being selected in a Rule 5 draft, just because there are a million people out there who can play first base. That last spot on rosters is going to be used more for someone who can have some utility in other positions and things like that. And Mason Martin just doesn't do that. Yeah, could you maybe hide him? I don't really think you can, because like you need all your position players nowadays, because you're carrying huge pitching staffs. You know, if you got teams with 13 pitchers, you've got to play everybody.
It's a 26-man roster with a 13 pitcher max, unless they waive that again because of a shorter spring. And you got a National League DH now, so pinch hitters aren't quite as valuable as they used to be.
Yeah, but you still got to be able to hit. He doesn't do that well.
I think more than anything, like what you'll see with DH now is you'll be able to now have, this load management stuff that we've been seeing lately is, and Brian Reynolds, instead of having a scheduled off day, Brian Reynolds can have a scheduled DH day. Well, then you still need somebody to play the outfield. If Brian Hayes has a scheduled DH day, you still need somebody to play third base. So I think that's what makes me hesitant in thinking Mason Martin has any value on a major league team right now, just because I really don't think his hitting is anywhere near what you would want it to be. And there are just other options out there that are more versatile and more reliable.
I'm not going to deny any of this. Yeah. A couple months ago would have been in your same shoes. I'm not even saying I'm fully selling out here, because kind of sounds like I am. Actually, I still have a lot of reservations with the guy. I just see the guy he's made some good steps in areas that he needed to make good steps. And whenever you consider the raw tools that he have that are really good, that have translated into games, he got to AAA. He's not a bum.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not a bum. And are we even sure, like, is the Rule 5 draft actually going to happen?
It's supposed to. No guarantees.
Okay. Wow. I mean, because I could even see, too, like, if you sign, let's say the CBA somehow gets signed by the end of the week, somehow. You've got these guys who have been in minor league camp for, a week or two now, and then you have to schedule the draft, so it's got to be in a week or two out. So like, I guess you're just plucking people from spring training camps. It's just the timing's weird. So I don't know. I don't know how it would work. I would be surprised at this point if they even have one.
They could just end up passing on it for all the reasons you said. I don't know. I just don't know how you're going to explain to the MLBPA after all this. Be like, by the way, a couple minor leaguers aren't going to get, major league opportunities that they normally would get this season.
Does the MLBPA really care about those couple minor leaguers at this point?
This whole thing is because of 5 years of a million paper cuts. Yeah. Starting off a new CBA with a fresh little paper cut probably isn't the best way to go about things.
Yeah, but at this point, like, we're running out of time. Like,
oh yeah,
backs are against the wall.
We're in the 23rd hour. Like the doomsday clock is at 11:45 or something right now. Mm. And I don't know, depending on how bad this lockout is, like what happens to Major League Baseball, and what's its cultural relevance? How big of a hit does it take to have a strike, or not strike, a lockout, where there are actually games missed for the first time in most, a good chunk of baseball fans' lives?
At this point, I think we're in the nitty gritty of, are we going to have a full season, which I think everyone is leaning no.
I don't think there will be.
Forget everything else that comes with that. I agree with you. Everything else that comes with that, that's just going to be thrown to the wayside, in my opinion. It's just going to be try to survive a 2022 of whatever baseball we get.
God, that's depressing to hear. It's more depressing. I can't, immediately rebuke it.
Well, and let me ask you this, right? So they've been together all week. The good news is, they're not there showing up 50 minutes, they're walking out and everyone's just disgruntled, right? We know they've been together, whether it's in a room, outside of a room, however it is, they've been together for hours. Seems almost every day this week. So I guess how optimistic are you that by the end of this week, maybe even if not, it's signed and done, right? Signed and sealed, but by the end of this week, they're going to be at a part where it's coming together. There will be a deal happening.
The only reason of optimism I have is back in 2020, the two sides were 1,000 miles apart. And then one day, Manfred and Clark got into a room. And in one day, they got 90% of what they needed to get done. And a lot of that was based off of a March agreement that was, strung together in a couple days. It everyone had a gun to their head at that point. And a lot of that 90% was just extrapolating what was done there. And there is no, basic framework to build off right now, but there is precedent that that they can make humongous strides. And it's really going to come down to the CBT. Whenever either side blinks is whenever concessions start to be made and this thing finally gets done. It's not going to be the bonus pool where they decide, okay, it's $50 million or $100 million or $10 million, whatever it is. It's going to be that tax, which really only impacts 8 teams at most?
Basically.
Yeah. The 8 richest teams that they might have to spend a little more money than normally do, money that they have in, wheelbarrows in the back. That's what this is all going to come down to. I don't know. Whoever blinks on that, that's whenever things get done. And maybe both sides, the league put down the gauntlet of games will be canceled. You will not be paid. I don't know where it stands with service time. I know that in 2020, the one thing the players were not willing to mess with at all was service time. And if the league threatens that potentially, maybe that makes the players blink first. The owners are looking at generations of missed income potentially by not expanding the playoffs, which the players said we are not going to do if we don't have a deal done or if we miss any games, this season. That is billions and billions of dollars potentially wasted, on that. And this is all going to come down to within a couple of days of which side, isn't willing to call BS any longer. Someone has to.
Let me ask you this, because I think we've asked about everybody that we've had on in your shoes. Do you think we're really going to see any change in baseball other than maybe the universal DH or adding maybe a playoff team? Because I think we're all of the opinion we're not going to see anything. It's going to look like the same baseball.
Like actual on the field product, it's going to be the same. There isn't going to be a big
change. Even just front office wise of any economical, I don't think we see any different there either.
No, I mean, we'll see some parts. We'll see more players with 2 years plus of experience qualify for arbitration. We'll see more people who get bonuses, and those who are pre-arb get a slightly bigger piece of their sliver of pie. We'll see maybe a draft lottery that maybe keeps a team from tanking every once in a while. But like actual big fundamental changes in baseball, no, it's not coming out of this CBA. Maybe that's the most frustrating part, that it's this much fighting to see exactly if it's going to be completely status quo or just mostly status quo out of this whole thing. And I don't know. You would like to think that if you're going to go through months and months of labor pains, you would actually have a baby to show off at the end.
Well, I was going to say too, so I've seen people say that some players, I think, I forget who it even was now, but someone more or less said, like, literally, like, if MLB offered us what we have today, you would probably see them accept it. Is that kind of like you're feeling this too? That if there was literally no change, the players are almost at an advantage, they would just go and accept that?
At this point, no. Maybe that would have been the same a while ago. If the owners wanted to theoretically stop a lockout and be like, look, we can't miss games in 2022. We are going to go to war this offseason, but we're going to pass for this one. Let's play a season. Then just all hell breaks loose next winter. I would see the players go with that, just working under the old one for one more year. But I'll stand by it. I don't think it has to be this humongous change to actually end it anymore. Like, we are seeing them fight over $100 million potentially in a bonus pool, $500 million over the course of the course of the thing. We're talking like each team signing an extra, number 5 starter, the CBT, something that impacts only 8 teams. Like, that's not going to really change anything. The draft lottery, who really cares if it's 4 or 7 or 8 or all the teams at this point? It's
so what you're saying is just
this could be done in a day. This could be done in a day if they really wanted it to be done in a day, but both sides are just so hell-bent on winning this finally. They can't fight this far just to end up with a silver medal.
So what you're saying is basically it's going to cost each team about the going rate of 30 minor league players.
Wow. Give or take, yeah. Can't pay 30 more minor league players.
Yeah.
God forbid.
Because we might need to add a 5th starter.
30 guys making poverty wages, you can't really live off that.
Listen. So speaking of minor league players, I'm curious, like, what, with these labor talks going on, you've got minor leaguers in camp right now. Like, is there a vibe that you've noticed among them? Like, are they kind of like excited to, like, hey, the spotlight's on me right now, or are they kind of down too because it's not the same? Like, what's your vibe there?
From the players, a lot of them are in the look. We know, unless you're a AAA player like the Mason Martins, the Cal Mitchells, this doesn't really impact you right now. Like, you have absolutely one goal right now, and that is trying to improve, try to get to the major league. So if there is any Major League Baseball still standing in a year or 2 or however long it takes for you to get to the majors, you'll be a part of it. Henry Davis sounded off on Twitter whenever that proposal about cutting minor league players came out. He doubled down on it in Bradenton and said, look, more baseball is a good thing. There is no bad outcome that can come from more baseball. And he's someone who really has done what he felt like was a favor to Major League Baseball, not the league, but just like the sport whenever he went to that draft combine. Not because he had to. None of the other, really high first-round draft picks went. But he went and he said, I wanted to go because this could potentially grow the game, and I want to grow the game. So he went for it. Good for him. There's a positive vibe with, like, the front office people, the minor league coaches right there. There's, like, some cautious optimism of, they'll just get a job. They'll get it done. Of course, there's going to be a major league season. Why wouldn't there be? But, they're baseball people. Of course they would feel that way. Among the players, unless you're like a Henry Davis who has spoken out publicly with it, it's just, look, I'm working on me. I'm working to get, as good as I can get.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious if there was like there was kind of like a tone around camp on if it was going to be any different for them in particular, just because. Yeah, I mean,
and I'm going to preface this with, I haven't talked to everyone. I'm sure there are some players in there that feel very strongly, one way or the other of, like, no, the players are right. They have to absolutely, get all this stuff, make our lives better. And the other one's like, oh my God, just get a season going. Do you have any idea the consequences of not playing baseball in 2022 would be? I'm sure there are people who take both sides in that.
Not to mention that these guys aren't in the union.
No, no, they're not.
Probably 3/4 won't be.
if probably more. I mean, there's probably not more. Most of them will at least get a cup of coffee. Not most, but a good handful of them will.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think
they don't give a crap.
Yeah, if you think about it, like if you're like a fringe guy, right, you kind of don't want to speak your mind probably because you don't want to make any, you don't want to ruffle any feathers. If you're someone like Henry Davis, you can afford to say whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
that's why it became a meme on Twitter whenever he went on. It was like, oh, well, we can't get rid of this guy. I guess he gets to speak his mind.
Right, exactly. Henry Davis will be that next union rep that we trade.
Half of them are ex-Pirates.
It's crazy.
How the hell was the best thing that Neil Huntington produced were union reps? I mean, come on.
It's just like once you play for the Pirates, you just like have to it really ingrains the whole anti-ownership agenda in your head, I think.
It can't be a coincidence, right?
I mean,
it can't be a coincidence that all these people that were in this previous regime's culture, new regime comes in saying we absolutely have to change the culture. That's the number one priority. And it's like, I'm starting to think maybe the culture wasn't so great there towards the end.
Right. Well, I mean, honestly, speaking of culture, what I was going to ask you too here is like, you being down there and such, you talk about the vibe of the players, like as far as like the CBA and all that goes, but like, what's the vibe of Pirates camp? And I ask this too, because I know there hasn't been like many opportunities for you to be in spring and, see these guys all together and such, but you're coming off this exciting draft, right? Where everyone's talking, interviewing everyone. They all seem to be, gelling together. So now they're all in camp right now. They're mixed with everyone. So like, what's the vibe in general amongst these players?
It's a good vibe. It's a healthy vibe. It kind of reminds me, honestly, of in 2020, whenever I went down to Major League Camp, and that was the first one I ever went covering wise, but everyone was just like sprinting. They were ready to go. And yeah, we know how that season turned out, but it was just like complete change of pace. It was something different. It was a breath of fresh air. And I think a lot of that is still carried over here to the minor league camp. Like you can mention, that big draft class around there, which someone like Henry Davis is absolutely the guy that has all the eyes on him. I don't know if he's going to end up being the best Pirates player. He's going to end up being the Pirates captain at some point because the dude just screams that energy. He has that energy around him, and it really does impact the people that he is around. It's a good environment down there. It's a good culture. They're doing some wacky stuff, and like with some of the drills that they have going on there with the hitters, with the machines going on there, they have like weights tied to hips sometimes, like swing to try to keep the back, open up the back, don't let the hips fly open right there. And it's a lot of weird stuff. And it's been a very much almost every single time it's the player going, all right, I'm willing to give it a shot, which is basically all you could ask for out of it. So what they are trying to build, and the more time I spend around the minor league camp, the more I see it actually translated, the more I feel like, yeah, they're actually accomplishing what they're trying to set out to do.
So I know I'm sorry, Jim. I know a lot of the buzzword around the minor league camp is individualizing some of the development. And it seemed to a pessimistic Pirates fan like myself, it feels like it's a buzzword to get away from the Neil Huntington regime, where they were a square peg round hole developmental thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you convince, just in your opinion, of what is different about what they're doing?
Well, I mean, for the real pessimistic Pirates fans, nothing I'm going to say is really going to change in there. It's going to be and I don't mean that like as an insult. It's going to be whenever a Peguero comes up and he hits, like he's he lives up to the hype. Whenever an O'Neill Cruz or just Nick Gonzalez, just someone that's like, no, this is what they set out to do, and here's tangible proof that it's actually working. And until then, it doesn't really matter until they actually field a winning club.
I'm happy you said that.
That's the most important. That's the only thing that matters in all this. Like the development, the minor leagues, that's just a stepping stone. That if you have that, you're going to have good. Don't consider that a win.
So I guess
because it's not.
What are you? I know you didn't cover them back in 2019 at spring training, but from what you heard then compared to now, are you seeing a lot different in terms of development?
I mean, 2019, whenever I'd go out to Altoona and whatever pitcher was on that day, you're talking to, oh God, who's the manager right there? Ryan. He's talking. He's like, what'd you think of this pitcher? He did good. He got this many outs on 3 pitches or less. It's like, why the hell do we care how many outs this double-A fastball pitcher got on 3 pitches or less? How can we actually think that this is the best way to develop pitchers in this time and age? And there are pitchers that floundered with it. And it's no surprise that someone like Mike Burrows, who I'm really high on as a prospect, gets out of that system. And boy, did he have a really good year in Greensboro last year. Now he's a top 10 prospect where, beforehand he was just this 11th rounder with some good raw tools that the old regime didn't know how to do. That's where the individual part of it comes in. How do we get the best out of you? There's more collaboration with players. Cody Bolton threw a slider all of 2019 that he didn't want to throw. And why? Because, we told you to throw it that way. And that was something that he threw out. He got a hold of the new pitching coaches. He's like, I want to experiment with this new grip. They talked it through. They found out, the concern was, can you keep your arm healthy? They feel like it can. So he's going to it. That's where you get the best version of players. Whenever they have that control, whenever they actually believe into, whenever they do something, not because they were told, but because everyone involves, like, this is how you become the best version of yourself. And until it wins, it is just words, but
yeah. Is pretty much everybody there? Any visa issues on international guys or?
They were coming in waves. There was supposed to be one more big wave that had Lonnie White and Brendan Malone, and I can't think of anyone else. Maybe Braylon Bishop, who was still, going to come in right there because they tried to prevent this huge COVID outbreak among everyone, if everyone just came in at once. But after that, I think that's everyone besides the 40-man and the DSL guys.
So do we just want to get into it? Because I know Jim's just, waiting. You brought up Henry Davis. Jim can't wait to talk about Henry Davis. We heard about the baseball he crushed. So what are you seeing out of Henry Davis right now? For the little bit that you have seen.
Dude's a ball player. The dude... I'm gonna try to say this in the nicest possible way because I don't mean it as an insult. The dude's a little crazy. He's a little baseball crazy. He's roommates with Bubba Chandler and Solometo, and he's talking yeah, we have to go to bed, and the apartment has to be at this temperature because it's the optimal temperature for us to go to sleep at. For an athlete spot. It's there's so much insane little details like that this dude's going to be a ball player. He's going to be a Major League Baseball player. He's probably going to be a really good Major League Baseball player for a while, especially if, they ditch the framing, which was the one knock I really got on him as a college prospect. And I brought up the leadership part and how he's going to be, the captain of that future Pirates team, whenever that may be. I don't know how much higher someone like Mayer is than Davis on the prospect charts right now. If you're a Pirate fan, you shouldn't care. Yeah, you really shouldn't care. They got the guy that they wanted for this system. It's as simple as that.
And technically speaking, since you're talking about it, Fangraphs came out today with their 100, and Mayer is 19, Davis is 22.
I take it all back. Horrible decision. They should have gotten Mayer. He's 3 whole players better.
So going back to Davis, we saw the Twitter videos of the home run that he hit and almost hit a car. You mentioned his personality and just his work ethic and all that. So we kind of get that idea. I think that's just something that coming from an elite university like Louisville,
All right, I'm done.
those values get
I'm done.
instilled. Those values get instilled in you.
Wish you went to Kentucky.
But no, for real. So you mentioned the framing, though. Kind of that was his one knock coming out of college. I mean, he was the best hitter in NCAA last year. He's kind of like built like a bowling ball. He's gonna be able to hit for power. I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. As far as his baseball skills that you've seen so far, what's kind of stood out?
I think the big thing that stood out is every single time I've seen him talking to a pitcher, it's been a very lively conversation. And I don't mean like they're getting in their faces or anything. I mean like the pitcher always has something to say. And, we're talking about a conversation going on 100 feet away. You can't hear anything, but there's definitely something that he's either asking or saying to the pitcher, or just something that is resonating on one of the two sides, which I think you really want to see from the catcher, more than anything right there, especially in spring training where you're trying to get a feel for a lot of these guys' stuff. I mean, he's going to spend next year probably split between Greensboro and Altoona. He is going to catch a lot of pitchers and a lot of talented pitchers. I mean, how many top 10 Pirates prospects is he going to catch between Priester and Burrows and Baginski and Jones? Like, it's a big list of really important guys he's going to have to end up catching and, have that relationship with. That's my big takeaway from it's all intangibles with him, which is weird for me. Like if you know me, I'm the type of guy that really likes getting into the mechanics, that likes getting into the data. And every time I talk about Henry Davis, I go to, he's learned Spanish so he could communicate with Latin players better on the mound. It's just a bunch of intangible stuff. And I feel like I'm discrediting that this guy was drafted first overall because he's a damn good baseball player.
Yeah, I've kind of said before that I think worst case scenario, we're looking at maybe a Kyle Schwarber type of guy that possibly doesn't stick a catcher, but he's going to hit enough to be able to play at the major league level.
Yeah, he's definitely going to hit enough. If there's no framing involved, I don't know why he couldn't stick a catcher, but then again, catcher's going to be not nearly as taxing a position defensively. Not to say it's not going to be valuable, but it's going to be a completely different ballgame of what's actually valued down there.
So what do you think the future of that really is now that AAA is going to have the robo-umps?
I mean, it's inevitable for Major League Baseball. I loathe it. I truly, truly hate it with it. I mean, I'm the petty jagoff that'd be like, you know what? But what I'm hearing here is there is absolutely, it's a competitive disadvantage to have a catcher if there is nobody on base before there are two strikes. Because why do you need someone to catch a baseball around them? Put them out in the outfield, have a 4-man outfield out there until two strikes. Let the robo-umps take it, and then two strikes. Okay, guys, we can't let it be a wild pitch. I'm going to put on the catcher gears. We're going to play joyless 7-hour baseball. We are going to be the New England Patriots of this sport. And until then, but I think that what's really going to separate people is going to be that, how you manage a pitching staff, how do you, call a game, how do you, it's that intangible stuff that is hard to quantify. I think that's going to be the most important thing for catchers going forward. People would argue it now, not to say that it isn't now, but oh my God, like pitch framing, that it could be a 20-30 run swing between a really good and a really bad player. We can't pretend that, that's 3 wins. We can't pretend that's nothing.
Well, I mean, and you're talking about the pitch framing, all the stuff we have. I mean, you don't even need to call a game anymore. You can have the bands.
Yeah. Oh man, that is right. Is that just Vanderbilt or who all has that right now?
I just saw Vanderbilt, but I think it's in process of, I don't know, is that going to expand? I didn't really dig too deep in that, but I saw that as well from them.
I got depressed with that. How are you supposed to bang a trash can with that?
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to come to Major League Baseball. I would be really shocked. But I mean, it's a cool concept if you're like, if your catcher's not calling the game anyways, why not?
Yeah, but the catcher sees stuff that other people can't do. Pitching coach isn't going to see, hey, his hips flew open really early right there. Let's throw some off-speed breaking stuff. I don't know. You could get you could get a lot of stuff from, the pitching coach. You should get a lot of stuff from the dugout, but the catcher should be the one. Catcher and pitcher have the final say. Because without them, pitch ain't being thrown.
I'm 100% with Alex here. There's just a feel that a catcher gets with a game.
Mm-hmm.
That is just completely different. And the more we take away all this, the more boring this game's going to get. I'm afraid that this game might get too boring with stuff like that. Like the reason why we have robo-umps is because in 2015 or whatever, ESPN put that stupid strike zone filter over it, and wasn't life a lot better in 2015 than it is now? Think of all the horrible things that have happened since then. I don't want to tie it all back to ESPN putting up the strike zone thing, but boy, did that not help.
So basically, pitch effects ruin the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
But man, I can deal with robo-umps. I just, when we get too far into it, and it's just going to get exhausting and hard to watch. I might just watch college baseball
until that gets the robo-umps.
It's like college,
and then I'm just
before.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But and then you go to high school.
We don't have money for that.
T-ball.
You'll have to install TrackMans at Lisbon High School.
Oh God! But either way, I mean, I actually did used to be all aboard robo-umps. It was mainly just anger at Yadier Molina stealing a bunch of strikes. But at this point, I kind of enjoy just yelling at umpires based upon the strike zone that's on my TV. And then the ump zone.
It's human error. That's what makes it. There's not enough human error in this sport right now. Like, my hot take is like, review should be like 30 seconds long. Where you get
it should be like a Jeopardy thing.
You get a couple looks at it, get rid of like the really bad calls that, we made the call for there to actually be instant replay. And after that, it's like, no, it was a judgment call. You're not going, with that system, you're not going to have, Galarraga, have his perfect game taken away, which is what replay should be doing, rather than, after 5 minutes of review, we decided that the second baseman, he did keep the ball, he did apply the tag, kept it on whenever the base runner's hands for 5 milliseconds left the bag, and therefore it's a caught stealing, and like that's you lose.
Gregor Polanco, who was 7 years in the league, popped off the bag for a millisecond.
Right.
Yes. I hate that. That rule needs to be fired into the sun. It's one of the worst in baseball. There's so many rules that have just lost all interpretation, what the original interpretation of it should be. Replay has not been the blessing for baseball that people thought it was going to be.
No, I fully agree. I fully agree with that. I hate, like you mentioned, like you pop off it for a millisecond, now you're out. But what I'll say I found interesting, what you said, was something I never really thought of, right? Because to go to Tyler, I was also one on robo-umps. Like, just get it right. This makes sense. Like, why be wrong? But I've now leaned more towards no, right? Have the catcher frame, right? Have the framing in there. But you said about the game getting less exciting, and like the pitch effects, like ruining it, right? 2015. And I'm thinking about that. I'm like, you know what? I feel as if like that's the opposite. I mean, what is more entertaining than having people just yelling and complaining and whatever? Honestly, think about that. That actually has added entertainment value to this. If you lose that, whether it's, good or bad, right? You're talking about it, you're complaining. A group of people are all coming together. Everyone knows who these umpires are right now because of all these bad calls. You lose that, right? It's just kind of just dull. Like, I know it's right, but sometimes I guess right isn't always exciting, if that makes sense. And I know someone listening, Ethan, is going to hate everything I'm saying right now, but like it's true. And I guess I kind of get it. Like, yeah, ultimately the The goal is to be correct, but being incorrect does add excitement to the game.
I mean,
if every call was correct, you could never be like, what a terrible call.
Right. There's reasons why people listen to First Take
phrase.
because they're just horrible takes, right? And they're completely wrong. So that's why Skip Bayless has an audience.
Does anyone actually watch First Take and not just get like the best of Stephen A memes on Twitter? Like,
I mean, I haven't watched it since they broke up, I guess, since they went to FS1, but yeah.
I don't know. To err is human, and baseball is a human game. Like, taking away the human error is, I hate it. And I know maybe that's not exactly on brand for the stats nerd, for the analytics geek, but you gotta keep it interesting. You need that variable wild card with it. If you don't like it, just play the show and put on the umps always get it right call, and have your manager get tossed for no reason.
I feel like me and Alex are kind of in the same boat, where at one point in my life I was all aboard reading Fangraphs all day, all aboard reading whatever sabermetrics I could find. And then I just got to a point where it just took away the fun of the game, and it made baseball not baseball.
No, I'm still in the the Fangraphs boat
but
here, but yeah,
at some point it gets exhausting where we're just overloading everything, and this guy hit this in the minors, he should be good in the future, instead of actually not. Does this guy's swing going to translate to the major league level? We just kind of threw that out the window.
You just argued on Mason Martin and used analytics basically to do it, your whole freaking point. So what leg do you have to stand on?
Is the swing going to translate to the major league level? No, because he strikes out too much and he doesn't walk.
You just he can't do it because the only player who ever
drill.
did it at this percentage was Javi Baez.
And that's
you just
part
rolled
of my
out
point,
a
where
Fangraphs article.
They are super useful. Analytics are, but at some point we get to a point where, and just like throwing an entire front office at all these Ivy League guys who actually don't know baseball other than the numbers is almost ruining baseball. I said almost. It's very useful.
We've already talked at length about how boring the game has gotten because the players have gotten so good at doing what they're trying to do. Right?
They have gotten good at doing what the analytics have told them to do.
What they're trying to do is get paid more money. And the way you get paid more money is by hitting home runs and striking hitters out, right? Mm-hmm. So the players have gotten so good at that, and they're focusing on that. And both behaviors kind of are feeding into each other's behaviors, that it's just culminating to you don't have enough balls in play anymore, right? Which makes the game boring. Strikeouts are cool.
Jim, where does this all start?
No, it starts with analytics.
It starts because
right?
because they're the people saying this is the most efficient way to win baseball games,
right?
Which is boring.
Well, with the players, they're saying it's the best way to get paid. That's what the players are saying. The players, which is really, because that's what they care about is how can I get paid?
Correct.
Hit more home runs.
I don't blame them.
More batters.
I blame Billy Beane.
But I mean, that's the issue. But that's the issue, right? I mean, I remember watching baseball as a kid in the 90s, like when Chris Benson would strike out a batter in 1998, right? Or 1999. Like it was like a big deal. It was like, oh man, big strikeout. Like if a pitcher struck out 10 batters in a game, or if a team struck out 10 times in a game, like that was a lot of strikeouts. And now you're almost never going to go through a game where a team doesn't strike out 10 times. It would be almost impossible at this point because you've got relief pitchers who are throwing 102 miles an hour. You've got everybody's throwing just ridiculous breaking stuff because they've maximized their spin that they can put on the ball. It's all scientific now, and everybody is just the best. Everybody's throwing the best pitch they possibly can. The hitters are only trying to pull the ball in the air, and it just means home runs, strikeouts, and nothing else. And
Perez,
it's boring.
Oliver Perez hitting 200 strikeouts was a huge deal.
Oliver Perez should be a huge deal. even nowadays.
He was a huge deal that year.
He
Yeah,
third most strikeouts in Pirates history in a single season, and the other one I can't remember who it was. He threw like 80 more innings. It wasn't even. It was pretty close.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my point. Is that analytics certainly have their use, and truthfully, I think analytics fit most in baseball than any other sport. But we have gotten to a point where it has made the game slightly painful to watch.
I mean, it could be stat that, like the football. Like, at least that's why baseball analytics have caught on, and while football hasn't, because it's hard to actually quantify, how football analytics work, because there are just so many different variables in it. You've got 10 other people. Where baseball, every single play is its own individualized event that rarely will take more than at most 4 or 5 players to complete a play. Like, unless it's a 6-4-3 double play, you're not really going to need more players in a given play than that. So that's why it's taken off there. And plus, what Jim said, that it has worked with it, and it has made the game slower, a little less enjoyable balls in play. I mean, there are definitely fewer balls in play. There are more home runs. There are more strikeouts, to the point that it's not as exciting as it once was. But it wasn't just that. I mean, it has always been trending that way. Like, even before that, there was ESPN, where you get on highlights and chicks dig the long ball, and that's how you end up building your brand that way. And before that, it was the only 3 stats that we really care about for hitters are average, home runs, and RBIs. And it's always been like that. I feel like analytics get scapegoated a little bit in this. I don't know. Speaking as the guy who writes the analytics column in Pittsburgh every week, it's evolved into only being about half analytics anymore, and half like mechanical or situational, or like how do you get about it, because it shouldn't just all be analytics.
No, I agree. I mean, I think we all feel like there needs to be a good solid blend. I mean, just like anything, everything's good in moderation.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go extreme, right? So I think we all can agree, like, it can't be all just analytics. You have to have the other stuff involved. And I think, I don't think there's much to argue on that sense. Yeah. Like Tyler said, I mean, you need those people from the Ivy Leagues to come in that don't know baseball, because they have that outside perspective and they can tell everyone what they're missing, right? Because when you have that scout that's been there for 90 years and they see it this way, and it's like, well, if you look at this aspect, look what we can do, right? I mean, like, look at this new regime opposed to the last regime. Like, this is what we've done it for 10 years, right? Three pitches and out. Okay, well, great. Let me come and give you another persuasive idea here, right? So, like, I think it's great that they've done it and they have made it efficient. And there's a great way of playing baseball now. And look how many other people have gotten jobs in doing it. But I think we have, to Tyler's point, it's gotten to a point where it's too much, and now maybe have some correction to the mean and dialing back on it.
The funny part is, with like the 3 pitches or less, it's like, what if the analytics wrong? They put so much stock into it, and oh my God, did Charlie Morton become a whole lot better whenever he was allowed to just try to strike out pitchers or strike out batters? Boy, did Tyler Glasnow get a whole lot better whenever he stopped throwing a 2-seamer that he was forced. That was forced. I'm going to die mad that Tyler Glasnow ever threw a 2-seam fastball. I'm going to die mad about that one. That is one of the worst crimes we have done in baseball over the last 20 years. That was.
It would be more.
It can't be.
Garrett Cole.
Garrett Cole at least was an all-star. Tyler Glasnow had his confidence shaken to the point that he was never going to work out in Pittsburgh, because he was forced to throw a pitch that he had never thrown before, and every single optic would say, like, this is a horrible idea. The only pitcher that could maybe do worse with a 2-seamer or sinker is Chris Archer. Better not try to, acquire him.
I got my own opinions on Glasnow, but that's a different story for a different time.
All right, so going back to camp. Let's go back to camp. All right, we talked about Henry Davis. You mentioned Nick Gonzalez a little bit, so let's kind of touch on him. What have you seen out of Gonzalez so far, and is he sad that his buddy Peguero isn't with him right now?
Yeah, those two are like legitimate friends. Those two, like it's Pirates lucked out a little bit there because I'm sure they had that vision of whenever they drafted him. I'm not saying they drafted Nick Gonzalez because like, oh, we can have the middle infield of the future, but it'd be kind of like boy, if these guys, really click together. They absolutely love the idea of those guys, playing together. They're really good friends. It's basically everything you could hope for as far as a double play duo goes. You could do a whole lot worse than two top 100 guys. Swing is compact. He moves through it. Haven't gotten to see him play a whole lot on defense. I think that's going to be a real factor for him because we all know there are a ton of middle infielders now in this system, and he could potentially go to the outfield. That was always the word if like middle infield doesn't work. Haven't really gotten to see him do any glove work, but the swing is the big thing. Obviously, I brought up the swing and miss early on, but that's just, beginning of camp going on there. Whenever it does hit the bat, it bounces. The guy hits line drives. I got like a Dustin Pedroia, like offensive profile comp, whatever he was drafting, and I totally see it as far as how that goes. And it's not surprising that Cherry was drawn to someone who had a Dustin Pedroia offensive comp right there. Like this, he's a good line drive hitter, and it's what you kind of need out of it. I look at someone like India of the Reds. It's like, if this really works out for him, that's kind of the ball player the Pirates are getting here.
He was pretty good.
So what do you make of, I believe Fangraphs dropped Gonzalez from a 60 hit total to a 45.
Was it down to 45?
Because I think at this point it's more of from what I saw, I believe he's down to a 45 hit total at this point. A lot of it's going to be a 28% K rate, struggle with the breaking ball.
Breaking ball, you sometimes had a hard time catching up to velocity. There is some swing and miss there. There is some swing and miss. I'm not going to deny that, but it's whenever he does actually make contact, it does jump off the bat at a good launch too. Like, it's not just a bunch of hard hit ground balls right to shortstop that you can find a shift and that's it for. There were a lot of legitimate line drives coming off the bat. He was playing in high A, is his first real step of affiliated ball. I wouldn't put a ton of stock in that swing and miss early on. I mean, Eric and them, they do a ton of great work. So if they did drop it to 45, I'd probably be a little more bullish than that. But I won't be like, oh my God, that is just such a horrible analysis right there. If they're not convinced that the swing and miss will go away, or at least be manageable.
Cool.
Yeah, they did drop him to 45.
It is 45.
And what's kind of the surprise thing is you talk about a swing, right? It's like the short, compact swing, and the strikeout numbers just don't you look at the swing and you're like, this guy should be able to make contact, and then you look at the numbers and it's like, oh well, why is he swinging and missing so much? So, I mean, I know he definitely got better as the season progressed. Like when he got healthy, he tore up the Arizona Fall League. A 45 hit total, I think, is a little much. Like, maybe drop him to 50, but I think this guy is going to be able to hit.
Yeah, I mean,
he's shown his whole everywhere he's been, he's hit.
Yeah, and early on, he swung miss a lot early on. He was going from New Mexico State to high A baseball. Like, that is a huge jump in the competition that you face. Of course, there's going to be some of that. And he had a couple hand injuries. He had a cyst in the Arizona Fall League that needed to be taken care of at the end. He had the pinky that cost him some regular season. Like, there were nothing serious in the long haul, but it does, cause little breaks. It causes pauses in the season and, trying to get that timing down. I'm not too worried about those swing and strike rates right now. Maybe if he does it again in Altoona, maybe it does become a little concerning, but I don't know. I view him as a major league hitter. Like, part of the reason they were drawn to him was because he was a pretty well-developed hitter. as as far as middle infield prospects go in the past couple drafts, and a couple months early on in affiliated ball isn't going to change that.
Well, the strikeout rate went from.
I tend to agree with you there.
It was 27% in high A ball. In the Arizona Fall League, when he was facing better pitching, for the most part, he struck out 16% of the time in the Arizona Fall League. So just kind of like the strikeouts were not an issue at all in the Fall League.
Yeah, I mean, smaller
Jim,
sample,
you have the
but
breakdown of just first half, the second half.
For the season, regular season.
Yeah, I feel like it was
based off just memory
different
from doing our show. I feel like when he came back from the injury, like that past 5 or 6 weeks, I think it was like a 22% strikeout rate.
Yeah.
Colby, I'm getting my Tyler on. Yeah. I'm trying to get my stats here, right? My little game.
Well, I just feel like it was plus 30 like first half.
I feel like the past
second half was maybe
weeks,
around 20, somewhere in that ballpark. So
yeah.
But regardless, it's if kind of like Alex said, where it's if he comes out and strikes out at that rate again, you might start to pause a little bit, maybe pump the brakes. But for right now, based on what we saw in the later half of the season, I wouldn't take as drastic of a measure as Fangraphs did, but they obviously watch a lot more ball than me.
They still had him as a 50, so it's not like they're it's not the Woody meme with the I don't want to play with you anymore or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's still a pretty big drop down.
From 55 to 50?
I thought he was 60 last year.
I thought he was 55.
But also when you have
drop down though.
When he put together a pretty
I thought he was a 55.
damn good season too.
So, yeah,
I thought he was a 60 to a 45.
I thought Henry Davis was our only 60 plus.
Cruz.
I'm talking about hit total.
Okay.
Oh,
just hit. Okay.
I'm just speaking about hit total.
It's the most important one for him. Like whatever. If he has to DH or play outfield or whatever, he can live with it. Because there really is no established outfielder.
But you were going to say
100% besides Brian Reynolds.
No, I was going to bring up too. So, I mean, talk about guys right outside.
We've talked about it in the... Go ahead.
You good? Is your audio delayed or something?
I think you're delayed.
Okay, I'm going to talk. No, I was well, Jim, did you find the numbers yet?
I'm looking at last year. Fangraphs had him at a 60 hit total. So
now he's a 45.
60 to a 45.
Okay.
I think Jim's delayed because that's what I said 10 minutes ago.
Did you get his strikeout numbers at the end of the year?
They were actually about the same.
The thing we asked for.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is, moving on, another guy on the outside, Quinn Priester, right? Got a lot of hype after 2020. We saw what he did last year, which was a pretty good season, but he's also another one. So Quinn Priester is 102 on Fangraphs. And the thing I want to bring up too, I wasn't very excited hearing this comp, but they pretty much said that his report, it reads just like Aaron Sanchez's did. So is he in camp? And have you seen anything from him or any thoughts, ideas?
That's a very depressing and maybe not the worst comp out there. Like, he is in camp. Talk to him. Look, he did something really good last year by bringing in the slider cutter that he has right now, which, talking to people like that's a major league ready pitch right now. He could throw that in the major leagues. The curveball has that 12 to 6 action. That's a really good pitch. Changeup has actually made some development. It's the fastball that's the reason why he's not super high up on the list. Like whenever it was the quarantine season, he was throwing bullpens. It was, a lot higher than it was actually practical in game. And I think people fell in love a little too much with that bullpen offseason version of Quinn Priester, who isn't in games, which, is fine. He was a good pitcher. He won his league, pitcher of the year. It's not like he, had this horrible season. He's got the fastball is kind of a little bit of an issue right now with him. It's probably the area that he needs to work on the most. Doesn't have a ton of run on it. It's maybe going to be like major league average, but he's got 2 really good breaking offerings. And I didn't hear the Aaron Sanchez comp beforehand, but I'm sure a lot of people heard a lot of this with Aaron Sanchez at the time. And oh my God, would that be anticlimactic if he ends up being Aaron Sanchez?
I'm not going to lie. I'd take an Aaron Sanchez at his peak. Aaron
Sanchez
from him?
Career sub-4 earned run average. He won an ERA title.
That Sanchez. 1 year.
I'd take it.
Just saying.
I mean, I'm not knocking Aaron Sanchez here, but you would want, someone in that team's area to put up his numbers than the top 100 first round pick.
I feel like when he turns in Aaron Sanchez, that's not bad.
I think that's fair. If you get a first round pick that turns into Aaron Sanchez, I'm fine with that.
That's better. That's better than every single Pirates prospect that has come out of the minor league system, other than Garrett Cole.
A one-war player.
Other than maybe
he
other
was
than just
higher than a one-war player once his career.
Yeah, which war you
use? That 1 year.
Fangraphs war pitchers suck.
I'll second that.
Well, I'm on Fangraphs. Let me go to Baseball America.
Or how about just go to Baseball Reference?
That's what I meant.
Yeah, maybe the one that works. What do you have? Prospectus. Like 3.2.
And he had 4 1-WAR seasons or higher, and one was 5.1.
So, like I said, that 1 year, 1.4, 1.9, 1, and then that 5.1. I mean, he did have that good year. I recognize he had the good year.
Mm-hmm.
To me, like he had that one good year, and then after that, he was there. Now, I get what you're saying. I mean,
just all right, let's put it about a right-handed Oliver Perez right now. Come on.
But what I want to say too is, especially coming off the season where everyone was talking about keep your eye on Quinn Priester. He's already rated high, and it was like, but watch out because by the end of this year, he could be the top pitching prospect in baseball. And now we're into those prospect lists where we're supposed to look out for, and we're talking Aaron Sanchez. So that was quite the drastic difference.
Pushing him up there, all that media type that got to watch him in camp.
Aaron Sanchez was the number 27 prospect in baseball in 2015, DiNardo.
Okay, and so was Quinn Priester like last year.
Yeah, but Quinn Priester didn't.
So it reads the same.
Games. If I feel like if Quinn, I feel like that is a good comparison to make. Like, yeah, you want Quinn Priester to be an ace, but like I don't think that's who he is. And I've only seen. We're talking about the 102 ranked prospect. If I got Aaron Sanchez, I'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. 102 ranked prospect. If Quinn Priester is a solid 3 or 4, give it to me.
Yep.
Quinn Priester should be very happy. Quinn Priester should be very happy that Contreras came around and he doesn't have to worry about being the number 1 anymore.
Well, that's true.
I will say this with Priester, and I mean, you mentioned it, Alex, just like especially the curveball, just borderline unhittable, especially like when I saw him last year, like just one of the best curveballs I've seen in a minor league baseball game.
Early JMO-ish?
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Yeah. Well, so it's throughout the Sanchez. What if he's just McCullers?
How do I mute Tyler?
If his 4-seam's not that great and it doesn't have much run, maybe you should change that grip. Maybe pronate a little bit. Let's just see what happens. See if we get some balls on the ground, boys. Forget playing up in the zone. This is the new era of ground balls again because the balls are not going to be juiced as much. So let's just get back to that ground ball era.
Have we ever docked Steelo?
No.
Interesting.
I wish I had that brain. No, I don't.
I was going to say, I don't think Steelo wants that brain, man. Love the guy, but come on.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, we talked about the last few weeks with McHenry and Bursack about Priester, and it almost seems like it's just kind of an overcorrection with the prospect rankings where he was just boosted so high that now that he didn't perform to the level that everyone thought he would, it's kind of like they're pulling back even harder.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he wasn't off-season bullpen, Quinn Priester over a regular season. How many pitchers are actually that? Very few. Like, is this really a sin? And yeah, maybe it is a bit of an overcorrection with it. I think the guy is a really good young pitcher. I think he is going to be part in anchoring, a potential playoff rotation for the Pirates, at some point. I think there are a couple people right now in this camp that whatever their actual ranking is, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if Henry Davis is 22 or 19 or 3. He needs to be a good baseball player for this team to be successful going forward. And Quinn Priester's in the same boat.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
So another thing I really wanted to ask too, and it kind of goes to the camp, the vibe and such, but I already love this guy, this kid, I should say, just because of whatever. And I feel like people in Pittsburgh will probably love him too. And apparently he's getting the mullet back. And I don't understand how in the hell he and Davis room together, because they sound like complete polar opposites. So like, what dynamic have you personally seen from them both? And just like, how crazy is Bubba?
Bubba is an interesting cat. Like Salametto is also a roommate with them too.
Yes.
I would love. They could do like a Real World or something.
I mean, is he like the father figure? I just envision like this old man and these two little kids.
It 100% is. Like Henry Davis is simultaneously 3 years older than them and 40 years older than them. It's incredible with that, where he's just the old man dad. I think it was Bubba who said he was like the dad of the group. I don't know, like Bubba's got a little bit of like the frat boy in him also. And it's actually funny whenever, someone says like, yeah, Bubba grew this offseason. He really grew, he really cleaned up. He's like, oh, he got his act together. No, like he literally cleaned his room. You can walk in it now. It's stuff like that. I do not know how they actually all get along together in that apartment, but they do. It's pretty interesting. That's going to be my only real takeaway from that. But yeah, Bubba, he's cleaned up his act. Good for him.
I feel like the Young Bucks Twitter account should do like a Real World Bradenton. Just like put up some cameras in that apartment and like give us some clips.
That's how I use my insider access. Yeah. That's how I said I could be breaking Trevor Cahill signings, but no, I gave it all up to see Henry Davis make protein pancakes in the morning.
And since we're talking about him, like, so what have you seen out of Bubba? And again, like two-way player, apparently going to keep it, the pitching, the hitting.
He's still going with it. They're still planning out, regular season where he can end up doing it. Swing is very simple, maybe to an almost destructive point. Like it's a very straightforward move. It doesn't look natural, but the ball just absolutely bounces off the bat where it's like, okay, I can see why they haven't given this up on there. There's some raw tools here. It just needs to be cleaned up a whole lot. Pitching wise, they've done a lot of work, at least from what I've seen so far, with the early parts of his windup delivery, gunning over the head. With the pitch, he's been working on the slider. It's all what you would expect a high school player to go through in their first, major league spring or minor league spring training camp. It's just interesting that he's doing what all the minor league hitters would do and all what the minor league pitchers would do at this point. It would be really interesting, exciting to see how long he can keep this a two-way player go. I don't know if he's going to be able to reach the majors with it, but he'll get through this year. I'm pretty sure.
Any concern that, if you focus on both, you're not maximizing the potential of probably what he's better at, which is pitching?
Yeah, well, he's not allowed to skip any pitching drills. He's not allowed to hit to the point that it stunts his pitching development. Like, there's no ambiguity here. If he can only do one, he is going to pitch right there. Okay. So if it ever does interfere, I'm sure the hitting would be cut down, but it hasn't so far. And they go out of their way to make sure that if he needs extra time off, it is, hitting or fielding development that ends up being cut off. I don't see him playing shortstop. I think that gets ditched pretty early on. I'd be shocked if he plays more than a couple games at shortstop this year, which, would still be a nice feather in the cap. But if there's any chance, it's going to be Ohtani where he pitches and he DHs, which is fine because there is no DH in the National League, which I hate, but, neither here nor there.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Alex is kind of like an old school baseball fan.
I was that first before I was the analytic nerd.
Yeah, but most of the analytic nerds like shoo off all the old school people.
I'm just a weird dude.
Are the pitchers excited that like they don't have to do bunting drills anymore and stuff like that?
That pretty much been killed though, because like unless you had two National League clubs playing, you just didn't have any pitchers hit in the minor leagues. And I think even then it was only AAA. At that point, they tried to get the DH in so many scenarios. So RP pitching, bunting drills. I should have cherished it more at last spring training.
Who was the guy who got hit in the head, in the face with a bunt?
AJ Burnett.
Burnett, yeah.
Oh God, that's right.
That was
2 days after being traded for.
It was like it was like his first practice, and he's doing bunting drills. He gets drilled in the face with a foul tip.
As my first action as a Pirate, I will give myself an eye patch.
Yeah, no more of that.
No, we're not going to have that. We're not going to have Adam Wainwright blow out his Achilles and maybe cost himself a Hall of Fame career.
Ryan Vogelsong just taking
that's who it was.
Cheek.
Oh, God. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it just came to me. It was Wainwright who mentioned about if the CBA was exactly what it was today, they would probably accept it. Sorry, it just came to my head. I finally remembered the thing I talked about an hour and 15 minutes ago.
Has anyone checked in on Madison Bumgarner yet about this DH thing?
Yeah, I think he said something about it. Like, he was a little disappointed, but is what it is type deal.
Well, he's old now, so he's probably fine with it.
Yeah. But the other thing, too, I'm really excited about is, like, no more really stupid double switches where, like, you take out your cleanup hitter and you put in a relief pitcher, and then it's, like, the 8th inning, and your cleanup, your number 4 hitter's up, and you got a pinch hit with, like, your 3rd-string catcher.
I'll tell you what, Clint Hurdle needs to make a comeback because this guy's going to be great as a manager in this new baseball where you don't actually have to manage.
You just have to show up and keep the clubhouse loose.
Yep, that's all he needs to do. And
he was doing great things
always
for the
good
clubhouse at the end of 2019. It was really good, wasn't it?
Well, that's why he took a little break. Now we'll reset.
What was Joe Maddon's excuse then?
Also, another guy that made a couple really stupid decisions.
Yeah, well, now he's in the AL. So what's his excuse?
He coaches the Angels.
He chose that willingly.
His best pitcher is a hitter.
Well, the money was pretty good though too. Yeah. Oh, so Alex, I know last year you were trying all the different foods, and right, like every night you tried a different place or whatever. Any new cuisine down in Bradenton this year?
Okay. So this is PDQ. It's going to come out backwards because first cameras are a cruel mistress. This is the winner of the chicken sandwich battle that I guess ended, but it still goes on in my heart. I'm still fighting this chicken sandwich fast food battle. That's the winner. PDQ.
Nice.
PDQ.
Pretty sure. I think Tim Tebow's part investor in that.
He is?
Yeah. Just FYI.
That is
Tim
some
Tebow
information.
He can apparently make a better chicken sandwich than he is a baseball player.
Or quarterback.
Or football
Or
player.
a quarterback. Or a tight end.
Probably do a lot of things better.
Tight end, quarterback, outfield. Is there any position that man can play?
Good at everything, master at none.
There's a second half to that saying now. It's, I can't remember. Some Google it. And by that, I mean whoever's listening to it. It's like jack of all trades, master of none. But, the jack of all trades is actually better because he'll always have work. And the guy with one specialty is a jag-off. I don't know. It's something like
I think
what
you're saying.
I think that was it. You nailed it. None of you don't need to Google it. That was it.
Here we go. Here's my epitaph.
Nice. Well, you guys have anything else?
If you one surprise player that we haven't mentioned, that's just you saw something and was like, oh, I need to talk about that with somebody.
If this guy says Mason Martin, I'm gonna kill him.
So I'm really thinking Mason Martin might be a. I don't know why I keep thinking with Endy for this because Endy's not, this unknown prospect, but I don't know. I'll go with Endy and pretend that it's, last year and he's not, the number 7 prospect in the system.
That works.
So it's not Matt Frazier.
I haven't seen Matt yet. He's here. I just haven't seen him do much yet. It's only been a couple days.
That's fair.
Well, hopefully by the time this gets released, you can go back and see games and see practice.
How long are you guys holding this?
One day.
As long as we need to.
Pretty much. We're going to go ahead and hold this until Mason Martin gets released and then strikes out 100 times in like 3 games. And then we're going to release it.
Yeah. Make sure you look bad. Just got to confirm a few things first, Alex, then we'll put it out there.
Yeah.
But we're going to chop out all the things you got right.
Chandler starts as soon as Bubba Chandler starts 10 games at shortstop and doesn't pitch.
Yes. And Mason Martin has a 980 OPS for the Athletics. They'll be like, we'll find a no for 4 day. We'll find a no for 4.
Let's put it this way. You'll be on a Jeopardy episode before this thing comes out.
When am I going on Jeopardy? Am I just Wygabs now?
And wait, because with Pittsburgh, baseball media, blog sphere and stuff, are we talking about NS9 Jeopardy or actual real Jeopardy? Because it could be both right now.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly. That's fair. I'm talking about NS9, but
okay. I didn't know which one you were talking about.
I forgot about the whole YGAPS thing.
Well, anyways, no, this will be out Thursday night. Right now, people watching, we're doing this on Wednesday. So this will be out Thursday night at 9, our NS9 Live normal time show, which means at the time of this being out, there's only one more day of CBA negotiations till the weekend. So I guess I'm going to leave you at this. If you were to take all of your in-flight Wi-Fi rations that DK gives you, clearly, right, for your AMAs, and bet it on something, is baseball going to return by the end of Friday, yes or no?
No.
Okay.
We will be without a 162 game season this year. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my prediction.
Wow. What a Debbie Downer.
You
See if
should
we invite you back again.
I'm really great at parties. You should see me at funerals.
Someone
Alex.
invite Cody Duncan instead.
In time. So, all right, Alex. Well, I really appreciate you finally coming on and staying. It was a joy of having you. And for anyone that for some reason doesn't follow you, let them know.
Yeah, it was fun to be on. At Alex J. Stumpf, and check out everything that I write or podcast about on DK Pittsburgh Sports, because the guys got to eat.
There you go. So when you get the new Belgium following, you're welcome.
With or without the waffles. I can't think of anything else Belgium. I know nothing about the country. I'm going to get canceled there. Right? Yeah, there we go.
They got good beer too, like Belgian beer.
Oh God, I love Belgian beers. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Tyler doesn't.
No, I do love a good Belgium.
Tyler, if it's not Busch Light, Tyler doesn't want it.
No. Well, yes. So again, thanks for coming on, Alex. We'll talk to you again sometime soon, hopefully with better news that there's baseball. I guess I had to clarify that.
God, every time he comes on, we have bad news. Either Trevor Cahill or no baseball.
Trevor Cahill constitutes as bad news.
Yeah, we're out of here. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.